Like if you're listening to some of these uh people on social media, or like selling these courses, or like, oh, you'll make this much money in truck. And back then you could have made a lot of money in trucking, but it was such a short-lived period of time where it's like, dude, you have to pay this payment, like $250,000 truck, you have to pay this for the next 7 years.
The trucking industry is crazy right now, and being a broker can be stressful. Managing your invoices, billing, collecting, carrier base, and cash flow can feel like an impossible task. But I can tell you, OTR Solutions has figured out the impossible. They eliminate cash flow problems for carrier payments and ensure margin funding in just 24 hours with broker invoice factoring. OTR Solutions takes care of billing and collection processes with your shippers. And with lightning quick and accurate invoicing, your customers will never need another broker to handle their freight needs. Kick back, relax, and let OTR take care of your brokerage. If you want to know more, and I hope you do, check them out at otrsolutions.com/freight-caviar to see what they can do for your business. Or give them a call. They love to talk to brokers at 770-882-0124. We've partnered with Ascend TMS, the world's most popular and top-rated transportation management system. It's the ultimate tool for all your freight needs. You could use our referral code RA-FreightCaviar! To receive 3 months of Ascend TMS for free. It only takes 20 seconds to sign up, and no credit card is required. You can click the link below to learn more.
Good morning, guys. So today we have a great guest on. We have Paul Klimovich on. Paul, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you guys started in the trucking business and then the transportation business, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, my name is Paul Klimovich from Rochester, New York. We currently own U.S. Commercial Freight, Inc. What else? Started in about 2007. I was working for a company and got a chance to, what they offered me is saying that I could dispatch their trucks, and I could buy my own truck in the meantime. So, with the help of my dad's home equity loan of $66,000, I was able to, get my first truck in 2008, which all the trucks were about half the price. So it worked out. I got a pretty much a 6-month-old truck for $66,000. Back in the day. You guys remember 2008 when it was pretty crappy?
That's what I was about to ask you. So you basically started right before the whole crash, because I remember in like 2008 or something, right? There was a lot of companies. I wasn't in it at that time, but there was a lot of companies going BK, right, for trucking.
Oh yeah. Well, I started when it was like literally things were going south. And I remember talking to my wife, and I'm like, hon, I think we're going to buy my own truck, She was like, what? Are you crazy? What is wrong with you, And I literally just got married a year before this. So I scraped all the money I had, and I'm like, I'm just going to, give it a shot, take the chances, and while this opportunity is still on the table. So I was able to do that, and from then on, now we're at what? I don't know, 155 trucks or so.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you were basically, because you started it, if I'm kind of saying it correctly, but you started without even a CDL, right? So you hired a driver and put it on?
Yep, I hired a driver. I hired a driver. My uncle was the one that worked for a company previously to me, and he had some experience, and all he did is came to me and said, "Hey, Paul, you're my nephew. I would love to work with you, for you, as long as you treat me well, and as long as you pay me." And hired him. So that was like kind of, like I always say, the family always comes first. They always helped us out. My dad helped me out with the loan. The uncle went into work, so that was big for me.
Definitely. So, Paul, well, when you started in 2008, how was the market? We were saying obviously was going to crap. Can you kind of tell us like how the first few years of your business looked like, and however you were able to grow?
Yeah, so first 2 years of the business is honestly it was hard, but yeah, it was easy. The reason why it was easy is because I was able to load. I was able to have the contacts, use the contacts from the company I was working for to load my truck. So I was dispatching somebody else's 15 trucks. In the meantime, one extra truck didn't really bother anybody. I had good contacts, load board as well, and contacts where I was able to load my own truck. Were actually pretty good. Back in the day, that's when the consolidation was a huge part. Not anymore as much now, but back in the day, that's where it was a huge part. So the good part is they paid really good per mile. In that year, 2008, 2009, they paid a lot per mile. So because of the fuel prices, so it worked out really well. If you were able to gather so many partials, or if you really go to consolidation, you're able to run pretty well. Just your expenses were kind of high, but at the same time, the money was there to be made.
So
That's
the
interesting.
expenses were high basically just from the fuel side, right? Because I feel like the drivers were getting paid way less back then. I remember when my brothers even started, and I think they started at like 35 cents. And I think this was even past 2008. This was probably like 2010 or something. And then the trucks
Yeah.
were a lot cheaper, and it's funny because I feel like back, I don't know in 2008 what the rate per mile was, but I feel like right now, right, the average is like $2 per mile or whatever people say. And now if you look back then, that's what it kind of was, so
Yeah.
it's funny to look at that, because back then equipment was cheaper, insurance was cheaper, drivers were cheaper, there was a lot of things that were cheaper, and they're still paying good rate per mile. So
You know what's interesting? When I was working on my the first brokerage I worked for, they had like this old TMS, and you could go access data from like rates in 2008, 2009, and like it might have been like around that timeline. There was a load from PA to Chicago paying $600. It was like 70 cents a mile, and carriers took that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So maybe it wasn't the greatest then.
Yeah, I remember booking a load from California to Pennsylvania. I remember like just like now, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, JP Hunt. They called me in the morning. I used to come in like around 7:30 in the morning. It's either you get the freight that somebody canceled prior, and they need to move ASAPs, which they'll pay the extra money to actually get it moved as soon as possible, because their customers pissed off already and this and that. So I used to come in like earlier in the morning. I remember JB Hunt calling me as soon as I post a truck. JB Hunt called me, offered me for a load like 55 or 5,600 bucks. I'm like, no, I need to be around $8,000. And I just threw him a number. I'm like, dude, it was like floor loaded boxes.
Yeah.
Kid you not, calls me back, gave me $7,700. And it was like, what? $7,700 when like I said, the fuel prices were high, but the money was there to be made. And now I look back, where my insurance per truck a year was around $8,000, give or take, less or more. My first driver was at 34 cents. Truck expenses were definitely not as now. And I don't know, just everything, even the truck repairs on the road. I mean, everything went up. Go to the dealership to Volvo now. It used to be less than $100 per hour. Now it's well over $100.
Yeah. Wow. Some places are like 175, 185, and I'm like, this is insane. So
yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So back then, basically, when you started it, so you said you started it kind of in 2007, but you were dispatching. So you've been in it for a pretty long time, huh?
Yeah,
So
I've been in it since late 2007.
2007. Wow. And did you kind of grow gradually to get to where you are, or kind of how did you grow? Was there certain like years in your business where it was just like it went from this to this, or was it kind of just a gradual growth?
Honestly, the truth is, my plan was like, hey, I get a truck. Within a year, get another truck. If everything goes well, I have 5 trucks, more than enough for me and my family. I'm able to travel, this and that. The next thing you know, I had a lot of drivers that what they would do is come in for the summer, drive, 4 or 5 months, 6 months, leave to Ukraine. You find a replacement driver for that. When they come back, you kind of gain relationship with them. You kind of not kind of, but you respect them. So you're like, okay, I'll take you back. So you go to the dealership and you buy a truck. So next thing you know, you're at 10 trucks. So I remember meeting up with a regional manager, Volvo regional manager. He would meet up and he's like, Paul, what do you see your company grow? Do you see? I'm like, honestly, I could see myself going, 15, 20 trucks tops. He's like, do you ever see yourself having like 50 trucks, 100 trucks? I'm like, never, not a chance. I'm good where I am. I want to keep it, small, simple, and kind of have the time for myself. And I just didn't want too much overhead.
Yeah.
But like I said, within drivers, within the opportunity that was given to me at that time, that I was able to, I had a great guy. Mike came on board with about 2 years in business. He came on board. I left on vacation and I said, "Hey, Mike, can you just fill in my shoes for me for like for 7 days?"
Uh-huh.
And I came back and I'm like, just hang out here for a little bit. I'm gonna clear out some emails, use this, and next to know he's still with me for what the last 13 or so years or 14 years. So he's like the main guy. That my brother David, which is a huge part of my company, he's here, and just like everybody that's part of this company now, where the size of it now is not actually based on me. It's actually because of everybody that's in this company, and the way how I structured it is, I want people to actually retire here. I want people to come in here. I want them to be taken care of, paid for. Obviously, if somebody wants a crazy paycheck, I mean, you can only, can only be
Do so.
a certain limit. But what inside is, I want to treat people with respect. I want to pay them the right way. Because when I was working for my first company, I was promised one thing, and that never happened. And I wanted to be way different.
Hey there, amazing listeners. If you're enjoying what you're hearing on our podcast, we need your support. It will only take a moment, but it would mean the world to us. Please make sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to share with one of your friends that would enjoy our content. Your engagement helps us reach more people and bring more awesome episodes to you. Thanks a million, and thanks for being part of the podcast community. Was it easier to, I feel like, get back in trucking, like back then? Was it easier to get into trucking than it is now? Because I feel like now with social media and everybody, because I remember even back then in Rochester, everybody, like there was a couple big companies that everybody knew about, and it was like you would kind of hear about them, but you would never really know how it would work. I feel like everybody that would come kind of from Ukraine, or people would come from different countries, and they would just kind of like, wow, that's crazy. They have this operation. But now I feel like everybody knows how trucking works, and everybody's just getting into it. So was it easier back then? My question, I guess, to start a trucking company and kind of grow from that?
I would have to say it was much, much more easier to start a trucking company back then than now. Um, the overhead is through the roof. That's one thing. So to get into a company, to start out, anybody can go and open an MC number and start a name, but that's not the whole thing. There's so much that gets involved in it. Drivers. If you Let's say I'm just one truck, one company. I open a company, I hire a first driver. I got to pay him like way more money to lure him into my company, right? Versus
Yeah.
you build from 2007, I was able to build kind of, my name, my background, the way how I treat people. So actually, last time I checked with one of my safety guys and recruiters, I think we had a line of about 31 drivers waiting to get in a truck.
Oh, wow.
So it's not from Indeed. It's not from that we post anywhere. We don't post anywhere. I think I posted maybe a few years ago that we need a driver. Maybe I don't even remember. But it's all from word of mouth. It's all from drivers that are working at the company, that they have friends or somebody that wants to came on. And there's a lot of people that we rejected, and there's some people that are waiting until we had a spot available. So and that takes that you cannot get that within just a short period of time. That comes with years of building that trust, building the respect, never failing a driver that of something you promised them. I mean, things happen. You give a truck to a driver and you don't anticipate the truck breaking and it breaks. I mean, the driver can say it's my fault, and it's not like But with this said is never have a check bounce. Respect the driver. His job, it's not easy. So I always tell every dispatcher, like, one thing you to do, if a guy dispatcher starts working at a company, I tell him first day, remember one thing is we can always go. You can get an earful from the broker of changing an appointment or getting delayed, but you will never be able to save somebody's life if he's sick and you say, hey, I need this delivered. Meaning is just reschedule the appointment. The driver is more
Yeah.
important to me than anything else. Obviously, I care about the customer or the broker to make him happy. But our thing is we want safety first. We want the driver to be safe, and we want the respect to be paid to the driver. Same thing goes back. We want the driver to respect us too. Our job is not easy on the phone calls, especially during the the slow times. But what that said is there's so much that's involved in the trucking industry that you cannot just start a company today and you think you can be successful. That is not true, especially nowadays.
It's so hard. I posted about this actually on my Instagram. I posted on my story. I'm like, if you're not willing to sacrifice like 5 years of your life, then really do not get into it. Just enjoy your paycheck, enjoy. Because I remember even when I was driving, right? Like I had a nice car. I traveled to Ukraine all the time. Yes, I worked hard. I really, really worked hard. I mean, I hustled like when I was working for my brother, we just hustled nonstop. But then I would still come home and just take a week off, take a month off, whatever I needed. I was kind of like, you could take it off. When you start a business, I feel like you don't have the time to do that. Like I cannot just, well, right now, I guess, because we're still kind of growing, you probably can, because I see you're traveling all the time. But like for us, like I can take like a weekend off maybe or something, but I can't like be gone for a week or just shut my phones off and just disappear. It's so difficult to just be in it, and it's like consistent. Every morning you have to get up and just keep grinding and doing it.
Yeah.
The thing about it, sorry, Paul, I don't mean to interrupt you. The thing about this is the business is this way: is if you're not willing to roll up your sleeves and do anything in the business that you are in, meaning is if you got a forklift, if you got to drive, if you got to dispatch or accounting or anything, the business is not for you, because you have to be, they call it universal. So you can't just be like, oh yeah, you open a business, you can do whatever you want. That is absolutely incorrect. So everybody is like, oh yeah, Paul, what is it to you? Oh, dude, you can go anytime. That is not true. It's not, I can go there anytime. Yes, obviously now with the size, I'm able to, obviously I have big things or big worries where I got to deal with, but I'm able to take off some time, which the job is still done. There's a paycheck still coming in. But with that said, I still got to be on top of things. And if there's a dispatcher comes to me and says, hey, Paul, you got to make a delivery to a company nearby or something, I go do it. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not going to be embarrassed of it just because another driver sees me driving a truck. It's actually a good thing. I want to be a good example, meaning is I don't come to work and just throw my feet on the table and do nothing. No, actually, I'm there to do whatever I need to do to keep things going.
Definitely. Paul, I'm wondering, because you're in Rochester, New York. Bob, you're originally from Rochester, New York. Can you, like, both of us kind of, like, because I'm guessing you've met in person before, you know each other. Can you kind of dive into, like, the Rochester, New York community, like, in trucking and, how, because, like, it seems like there's a lot of trucking companies out of Rochester. Can you kind of dive into that?
You want me to do it, or Paul? You want?
Well, both of you, like. So, you know what I mean?
So I'll give a Paul. You know how we kind of went to Chattanooga, and everybody I feel like started off from like one thing. You know, kind of how we talked about
together.
It with the U.S. or Access America or whatever it was.
Yeah,
I feel like kind of Rochester was the same way, right? There was like two decent big companies, and then it kind of separated or something happened. I don't know the details, but like I feel like everybody kind of knows each other, and everybody started off from some companies, and then they just move on and open their owns, and it's a huge community. There's a lot of trucking companies, or a lot of our people that are in the trucking industry.
Okay.
What do you think, Paul? Would you see back then?
Back then or now? I mean, Rochester, how can I say it? It's everybody from themselves. There's a group of people, maybe they work together, so the smaller guys, but honestly, it's how can I put it? The best way to put it is probably like, other people nobody wants you to succeed. You know, if they hear you're selling trucks or something happened to you, trust me, that news comes around really quick. You know, I just got off Conditional a few days ago. No joke, kid you not. I can't be like I literally couldn't sleep for that night. I was the happiest person that day when I found out Conditional. So it took us almost 7 months.
Oh wow.
Yes, we went through a tough time. Actually, when conditional went to effect January 2nd, within I think 24 hours, if not less, I think all the news spread. And yo, did you hear Paul? I mean, even my parents were getting phone calls like, yo, did you hear Paul is in big trouble? He's getting out. I'm like, dude. So my parents call, and I'm like, don't like. It's part of business. Like, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
All you can do is, pray for us, pray for the company to make sure it's gonna be good. I don't know, but in the end, I mean, things. Yeah, it got conditional. It was. When it was good, it was good. There was some mismanaging of logbooks and this and that. So it was an honest mistake made, and DOT saw it. And to be honest with you, when that happened, our managers of each department sat down and we're like, yo, this is where we are. It's either the people in the company or us, we fold, or it's gonna make us stronger. Now looking
Yeah.
back 7 months prior, I can't say I'm thankful that this happened, but it's actually a good thing it happened. Our company, everything has switched like literally a 180 churn. So yeah, it was really tough. And some days you actually sit there and you're like, dude, should I just like pause everything till this thing gets cleared out? Especially slow down after New Year's. You got conditional. I actually went and dispatched trucks for about a week. I'm like, you know what? Let me just see how tough it is. So left everything, left all my real estate alone, and went to dispatch trucks. And truly, you call 9 out of 10 loads, and they tell you, sorry, can't load you. You're
Wow.
conditional.
Oh
So
wow.
it was very, very tough.
So, how did you get out of it, Paul?
Fixing all the mistakes. So when it went into effect January 2nd, we hired a company, and from then on we switched everything. We had to monitor all the logs. We had to monitor, make sure. So we had a lot of drivers who actually use other buddies or this and that logins, and obviously they were able to drive more hours than they were supposed to. So we DT caught onto it, and from then on we started to monitor. We have a company that monitors it, and we do ourselves in the house. So, like I said, thank God. Thank God it happened that way. Things could have been bad. Could have been,
Yeah.
accidents. Could have been horrible. So it is what it is. Now we look back and we say, it's a good thing we went through this, even though I don't wish this upon anyone, even enemies, But at the same time, it's a good thing we went through this because it made our company much stronger, much better, and I feel like our ducks are in a row much better than before.
As they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, So if it didn't
100%.
kill the company, you made it stronger. Can you explain a little bit what is conditional? Because I think a lot of people don't know. Like I personally, I know it could be by the DOT, right? It could be for like a non-safe driving. It could be not taking care of your equipment, or is it just who comes after you? How does that even work? Because I remember my brother had one thing where they reached out to him. I think it was same thing about being conditional or not, but then we had like 30 days to fix it, and we had to go basically write up a whole thing what we're going to change in our business to make it more like legit, or to make it more like, what are we going to do about the safety? What are we going to do about this? And then after they sent the whole packet or whatever, a whole binder, I think they took us off that or whatever. But I don't know. I don't think his ever actually went in conditional. So
there's what is it, four classifications of it. There's a satisfactory, which is the best one. Unrated is a step down. So unrated meaning is they come in, they look, things are good. It's almost saying that they never rated you. You obviously want to get satisfactory.
that's
And then there's conditional, under unrated, and there's what's called unsatisfactory. Unsatisfactory is you have 30 days to fix the issue that you have. Obviously, it's the first thing on their table when it comes to DOT, because they don't want you to shut down. So they're gonna look at it and hopefully you fixed it. And from then on, that's usually they say the process starts. So they give you maybe more time to get it fixed. Obviously, they want to see results. And you can't really, in the trucking industry, even if you start doing things the right way, within within 30 days, you still can't see all the results so much, you know?
Yeah.
So, and that's why I think conditional took us a little bit. So conditional is a thing where you get a conditional report. It went in on conditional status. It went in January 2nd. That day, no joke, we probably lost about 50% of our customers and brokers. Literally, even the customers that we dealt with, they're like, sorry, we can't even take a delivery or pickup from you because we don't want to work with you. You know, when we give them letters or this, hey, we went through an audit, we're going to get this fixed. It really doesn't matter. They go based on statuses.
Yeah.
So you hire a company. It took us about 3 months to get things prepared. When you prepare the stuff, as meaning is you give them facts of end results of things that you have done to make this company better. Meaning is the logbooks. Make sure who's watching them. This is a team that's watching them. Okay, give us the logbooks in a month later. Give us the logbooks in 3 months. So it took them 3 months to prepare this. So on March 7th, it went out to DOT. It's on their desk or somewhere, whoever it was. And I started making phone calls a few times a week. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? So in June, they started looking at it. And that's when Thursday, they looked at it. It passed. They sent me a letter. And it's immediately what do you call it? The conditional disappears. So meaning is the brokers. So I lost about 50% of the bat. January 2nd, things slowed down. Bob, as you know, in this industry, things went downhill really quick. And I lost about 50%. Within that said is some brokers give you a month to get your things back in order. That never happened. I mean, a month is nothing. Usually this thing takes 8 to 12 months. So some brokers give you 3 months. So like 6 months, when it was 6 months in January 2nd, January 2nd to June 2nd was 6 months. Even Schneider took us off. They said, hey, we give you 6 months, we can't even use you. So
just a heads up, like, because I was a broker for almost 7 years. And so we would monitor every carrier on Carrier 401. It's like, let's say with any company you do a load with, you automatically monitor them on Carrier 401, and then you get all the updates. So let's just say while your company goes conditional, we automatically get notified. And then it's like, typically, I mean, obviously if it's a slow market, then it's terrible for conditional carriers because I mean, there's no pressure to use a conditional carrier because you can just easily find someone that's either not rated or satisfactory. And the problem with that, with a lot of nowadays, is that a lot of insurance companies that work with brokers, they actually require the broker not to use any conditional carriers. And if, for example, they do use a conditional carrier and something happens with the broker's in potential trouble. And then also in legal issues, a broker could potentially be liable for safety issues if they hire a conditional carrier and that conditional carrier causes an accident. Then it's like, well, the broker hired them, so they're going to be responsible for that. And so, like, I mean, back in the day, like, it really depended. Like, if it was a hot market and like loads were moving, we'd be like, okay, could you send us your conditional letter of the letter that's, what kind of improvements are you making? And then it'd be like, okay, like, well, we might approve you. But then when the market's slow, there's no chance of that happening. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough. And I've once had a carrier want to do a load with me, and I look up and he just became unsatisfactory, and I'm like, wow, like I've never seen an unsatisfactory score before. And this guy wanted to take the load with me, and the company I worked for was like, absolutely not, like, we're not working with anyone that's unsatisfactory. So yeah, I mean, it's a big deal for brokerages, and they keep monitoring that up. No.
Yeah, and I was the guy. Sadly, I was that guy, and it never happened to me within the years I've had over a decade of trucking company, and this happened. But like I said, you take it, you take all the positives from it, the knowledge, what you can learn through it, and actually, believe it or not, you learn how to cherish a lot of customers, a lot of brokers, and you learn through the people that even there was people that were able to help you out. You'll learn through that when times are good, you know who to call and who to not call.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no hard feelings to anybody. You don't keep no grudges. It's just in the end of the day, there's just
It's
it was a
business.
tough time.
Yeah.
It's just
And
business, part of business.
yeah, and it's so true, kind of what Paul said. You know, when the market is kind of slow, brokers are so more they're like way more picky because they could go with a perfect company that has the perfect score. Why would they go with somebody that's not?
Why
I
would they go
remember
with me with conditional?
I
Exactly.
remember, yeah, Paul. Remember when we got that like freight guard for like an hour or something, dude?
Yeah.
Literally within that 1 hour, we couldn't book like 5 loads. It was
Yeah.
in the freight guard didn't even pop up
Yeah.
yet. It was just like somebody put a freight guard on us, you know.
Those
And
are
like
actually the
we're
worst.
calling the broker like,
Yeah. Those are the worst where like it's you can't read it because it's like if I could read it, at least I could make my decision. But it's like I can't read it, you know, because it's like 72 hours for the company to respond, and like it's unreleased on Carrier Phone One, and that's when like all brokers are like definitely not, just because it's like I have no idea what that freight card says, so I'd rather not risk it. Whereas if I could actually see it, maybe I can make a decision if it's actually like a legitimate reason not to use you or not, you know?
Yeah. So I was just like, it's crazy to think of that, you know, and just like, wow, that could change your whole business like this, kind of almost in a heartbeat, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
especially when the market is tight.
Yeah. So to answer your question is how was in Rochester? Yeah, I guess it was, you know, I was the bad guy, like they call it. I was the guy that got conditional, and you know, there's people that you go out of business or you name it. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'm the kind of person.
You're one of the biggest Slavic trucking community in Rochester, I would guess, right now, or is there anybody that has more truck?
Yeah.
So of course, people are going to talk about it. Yeah, of course, people are going to talk about it and say about it, you know, because that's what we do.
Exactly. And I told everybody, I'm like, listen, you know what? I don't wish this upon anyone. And it was literally it was a tough time to get, but it actually a lot of people in the office matured. A lot of people were able to grow up. I have a lot of young guys, a lot of energetic people in the office, a lot of, especially coming in from the good times where you can name any price and it's given to you. But you know what? We all learned from all this. We had a meeting when this condition was dropped, and everybody had something to say. We're like, hey, you know, let's go one by one and say something good about it. And everybody, the main thing was we all learned from all this. So we made it stronger. There was people that folded. They folded. They couldn't handle the phone calls. But a lot of people, or all the people that are here now, we all learned from all this. We're all, you know, from this. We learn how to cherish people. We learn how to cherish brokers. Learn how to cherish the people that came on, helped us out with whatever we needed. So that's how we look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I respect that. It's the right mindset to have.
Yeah, you got it. You can throw your hands up any day, and just because something happens, you know, it's like back in the day, I used to have, you know, a few trucks, and an accident would have happened, and I'm like, dude, I'm shutting the company out tomorrow. Screw this. This is not my business. I'm done, you know. And the next day you wake up and you just like, all right, whatever. You're still stressing about it. Now it's kind of like, if God forbid something does happen, like an accident or something, you're just kind of like, hey, can I get a new truck? When can I get a new truck? You start calling dealers or whatever. I mean, like, it is what it is. It just you learn how to take it on to as a thing where it's just part of business. But what I wanted to say one thing is going back to opening a trucking company. You know, honestly, trucking company is not for everyone. Yes, we all, you know, everybody that's in the trucking company has got decent, nice cars or whatever. They somehow they look at it, they have a decent life. But truly, trucking company not only comes from you, how hard you can load a truck or how great you load a truck. It actually really comes to as a character as you are. How good will you be able to interact or talk to drivers, talk to brokers, talk to customers, talk to everyone that you are working with? Meaning is you got 10 drivers, 10 trucks, and you have to adjust your you have to be a character, adjust your personality to each single driver. There's a driver that will call you and swear you up and down, and if you call him back and swear him up and down, guess what's gonna happen? Nothing good. Most likely he's gonna leave the truck where it is, and then you're the bad guy. Meaning is you have to adjust to everybody's personality, and I tell it to every single dispatcher. Like, honestly, in the end of the day, sometimes you're the bigger guy by not answering anything at all or not even saying anything back. let the team come down a little bit, and
Yeah.
then you take on. So that is truly the secret to success of a trucking company is really who you are. If you think you're the big boss and you sit in the office and you think that you're, especially now there's a bunch of drivers looking for work, and you think you're just like you're somebody and they're not nobody, that's not really going to take you far. So that's what I wanted to say about starting a trucking company.
No, it's definitely really difficult. When I hear Bob talking about owning a trucking company, and I just, I'm happy I don't own a trucking company. I respect the people that do. So a lot of respect to you, Paul and Bob,
Yeah, we were even right
it.
before you came on, we were talking about, like, it's funny because you mentioned you kind of get immune to certain stuff. Like, I remember when I had like 1 or 2 trucks, every little thing I would freak out, I would stress out about, but then as time goes on, you kind of get immune to, and you're like, okay, is everybody okay? Is everybody safe? If like an accident happens, and then you kind of learn how to solve the problem. But even like right now, like one little minor incident, and then you have somebody claiming that there's an injury when nothing even close to that happened, just a little side swipe or whatever, and you're like, every time you're almost like doubting yourself. You're like, man, is this really worth it? Is this really worth it? But hopefully in the end it will be. I don't know. But yeah,
I'm curious. Yeah, go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
So you got to push forward.
Yeah.
Now is the time not to make, how can I say, not to make money and cash out. Now's the time where you can look where you can save money. So, obviously you want to make money, you want to, things get paid, but in the end of the day is where you can save money to where things maybe you don't need like a daily thing, or where you can cut costs. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I literally,
100%.
1 second, Paul. I literally tweeted like the companies that have the least amount of overhead costs are the ones that are going to survive. And I think it's kind of true because there's a lot of people that got into it that have so much overhead costs, and it's so tough for them right now. So,
well, that's the most important thing in any business is to have low overhead costs. And like, there's, I forgot who said this, but this was on a podcast I listened to. It's like, be a cockroach, meaning that like you always will survive. And the way to survive is to have low overhead. And it's like, imagine if it was just, for example, like, like get rid of everything you don't need. It's not a necessity to your business. And those are the people that 100% survive. Be a cockroach in business. And it's definitely true. And I'm curious, Paul, because I mean, you're a go-getter, you keep pushing forward. You started in 08, 07 with 1 truck, and now you have 150, largest trucking company in Rochester that's Slavic owned. Can you kind of tell us, like, how were you able to grow to 150? Where were like the pain points? Like, what were the worst years and what were the best years out of, I don't know, the last, what was it, like 16 years?
Yeah.
So I would say probably for the half the time, let's say for the last 16 years or the last 7 years. So the last 7 years, that's kind of where we kind of start growing more on a heavier side. So we try to try to do 10 to 15% growth every year. I mean, I should have done it from the beginning, but like I said, it wasn't my plan. It wasn't my goal to have X amount of trucks where I am now. You just kind of, the opportunity was given and you just kind of at a point where you just keep on going. But what I said is, truly a proper company to grow is 10 to 15%. So the last 7 years, the biggest, truthfully, I never really had any issues with drivers. Drivers, they were always drivers for me available to come on. Somehow, like, I don't even know, like, sometimes drivers like, hey, I'm going to Ukraine, and like, no joke, a day before that, a driver will call me like, hey, I'm looking for a job. So like, what that said is just, I don't know, everything kind of clicked into places in the right time. So the toughest part probably for me, honestly, was with the growth, to make sure all my accounting is in place. I had to get a bookkeeper. So the last 6 or so 5 years, I got a bookkeeper. So the main part is the banks want to see what you're doing. You're not some small shop where you just go in and you can give numbers to your accountant. Obviously everything's got to be recorded. They want reports every month. They want edited reports. So for me, that was I would say the biggest the biggest thing was getting a bookkeeper, trusting that bookkeeper with everything. I don't even know where my expenses are. I just get a report every month now. You know where it goes, how much money we made, and where we can save. Versus we did it all by hand. You know, we kind of, money came in the end of the year. You look at your fuel, you look at your pay, contractor to pay, and you write that off and move on. Well, it didn't. If you want to grow a company, you got to pay your taxes. You got to do your taxes the right way. So in order for the banks to see that you're making money, you're growing, and that's when I was able to grow. Now I got line of credit. Bank was able to give me a huge line of credit for equipment line of credit. Which because it's because of all the taxes, because of all the everything's in order. All the accounting is in order.
Okay.
Nice.
Got it.
So if I ever need somebody to co-sign, I got your phone number. Because no, that's funny that you say that, but it's definitely so true. Numbers matter a lot. Like even our bank, right? They capped us out at a certain amount because they want to see like exactly, especially right now. I feel like banks are scared, to let people grow too fast. So they want to see exactly like your monthly breakdown, exactly what you're spending, your quarterly stuff. So numbers is you. But I will give you like you're right about that. The drivers, even from like I don't really know much about your business, but I've lived in Rochester and I've always heard that like drivers always wanted to go work for you. You guys always you guys had good lanes. So people always wanted to go work for your company. So I'm not shocked that you have like drivers lined up and ready to go work for you. So that's awesome, man. That's really awesome.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Very neat.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So you're a little bit in real estate too. Which business do you think is better, real estate or trucking? I wouldn't say a little bit, right? You're pretty big in real estate now too.
Yeah, I have quite a bit of properties in real estate. I started with single houses in the city, as Bob, and in Rochester in the city, and I still have quite a bit. And then I went into a few years ago. I went into more bigger complexes, residential, and now I went into more retail and industrial. So we have quite a bit of real estate. That's why I'm kind of the way how I do with trucking is if they need assistance with ordering trucks, trailers, or something that really hits the fan, like a conditional report, I'm involved in it. Otherwise, a day-to-day, I'm not really much involved unless somebody calls me for a question or I got to answer something. But usually, it's kind of on cruise control with that. I always say I want to go to vacation as long as my locks are not changed. So like it's on cruise control. It's good. I got a great group of people. I got managers for each department. I got the other people, the dispatchers, accounting, recruiters, safety. I mean, that's a huge part. Our shop, we're opening up a shop. We have our own shop, but we're opening it to the public soon. So it's what do you call it? We're getting into 3PL and storage for customers. So yes, real estate has been a huge part of my life for the last, I would say, 5 years. I was gonna say when the trucking industry, when this conditional went on, I was like, man, I felt like selling everything, all the cars I have, all the lavish stuff that I have in life. I'm like, dude, it's a liability. I don't need it. But thank God I have the real estate, which if need be, I can sell a property. But I have income coming from that. So real estate has been a good factor, for me.
So, Paul, you're saying that you have it on cruise control, and I'm just curious because we're all entrepreneurs here. We all have businesses. How did you learn to build your business so that it is on cruise control? Were you reading books? Did you have mentors? How did you get it set up to run that way?
Dude, I should be reading books. I hate reading books. I think my sister took all the reading from me. She literally loves reading, and I absolutely hate it. I got to get into it more. But no, I did not read any books. Just kind of, I don't know. It's truly the people that are involved in your life, in your business. That's the people that kind of like, hey, we have meetings every 2 weeks. We sit down, with all the managers of each department, and hey, what's the best way to do it? This, and truly, I don't want to know what's going on in the Northeast team. I could care a lot. it's not gonna make my life any better just because a truck came from New Jersey empty. Just because we have another trailer waiting for them to go back, but load got canceled last minute or whatever. It's not gonna make my life
Yeah.
any better by knowing that information. You kind of have to put the trust in, and that was a huge. That was one of the big things in my life where when I had to put the trust into somebody else's to run the business, or like my brother David, younger brother David, he's a huge part of the East and West Coast. That's
Mhm.
his department, and it's like you just give trust, and if mistakes are ever made, I'm not perfect. I can make my own mistakes. So if mistakes are ever made by a dispatcher or by the leader, what are you gonna do? You just company eats it, and then you move on to learn from it. Obviously
Yeah.
you watch the person. You have somebody to watch the person, um, make sure the mistakes not keeps on happening. But I don't know. The toughest part was for me to give that responsibility to somebody else and give the trust. Once that was done, it's
Yeah.
it's much
Instead of
easier.
like micromanaging everything, I think that's like a huge thing also. Because I think that's why a lot of companies, especially in the trucking industry, they stay small on the smaller scale up to like 20 trucks because they just want to micromanage everything and they want to know,
Yeah.
every little detail. And sometimes you do need to know that. And I feel like in trucking, it is every problem is your problem, like no matter if it's in the middle of the night or not. But yeah, I think there comes a point where you just gotta hand it off to
Yeah,
somebody to
but
manage it.
it is, and the micromanaging is huge. But like I said, having the trust in the team you have is
Yeah.
much bigger than me. If I'm micromanaging, I'm not going to see the big picture. I'm not going to
Yeah.
see. If I'm worrying about a truck that's coming empty from New Jersey that's doing 300 miles and it's coming empty because he didn't get $600, but there's a load for him waiting for $1,500 to be made. I mean, like if I'm
Yeah.
like gonna go flip out on a guy, I mean, like you just kind of put the trust into that person, to the department, to that manager, and he's doing the right thing. So obviously it
Yeah.
takes time to give that trust, but when the trust is given to that person, I don't worry about it. I don't care about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like that because like you could work on your business, not in your business. It's like looking at the big
Yeah.
picture, like that, like you said, like that drive-in deadheading, it's not going to help you grow your business. It's like you just I get what you're saying, and I think it's very
Yeah.
important in order to
You
be able
know,
to scale to 150 trucks.
yeah. You know the difference between an employee and an entrepreneur or a businessman
What?
is an employee. When you're an employee, you're doing everything you got to do to have the business. Meaning is you're micromanaging, let's say a trucking company, right? You're
Mhm.
you're even though you're a business owner, you're as an employee.
Yeah.
Uh, Being a businessman is where you have the people to run the business, and that way you can look at the bigger picture, but you don't have to micromanaging everything. I mean,
Yeah.
why? Why do I have to have? Why would I want to pay somebody where I'm still doing part of their job and I got to micromanaging their job and their people and worry about what the guy's gonna do? No, I
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean I'm gonna give it a trust, and if the person makes a mistake, the other person or his fellow next to him or the dispatcher or the main guy is there to fix it, you
Yeah.
know?
Totally.
So
Yeah.
that's the difference.
Yeah.
Paul, a little back to real estate. So, if it's not a secret, how many doors do you have? Because I feel like I keep hearing, 300, this and
Count
that. If
count
you
the
will,
trailer doors. Count the trailer doors as well.
no, no, not the trailers. Because you do have a lot of trailers
uh,
too. You lease out trailers too, right? But that's like a whole
yeah,
different
at least I
business.
feel as well.
Yeah.
I currently I think we have about 350, 400 doors. But like I said, it's like I asked a friend a few days ago, hey, how many storage units do you have? How many storage units? He's like, well, we go by square footage. So meaning is I can have a warehouse that's one tenant and it's clearly, yeah, there's few doors around the warehouse, but it
Hmm.
counts as one tenant. So he takes, they take 130,000 square feet versus I can have a property, a multifamily with 51 units and there's 51 doors. So but like I said, we have around 350 to 400 tenants now, both residential and commercial. I like the commercial aspect of the business more.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been good. I keep on buying stuff. I'm almost growing. I am selling a few residentials in the city of Rochester. Just
Smart
I
choice.
kind of
I'm
like you
I'm on
said.
my last one. I'm on my last one. I'm actually supposed to
Oh,
have
no
closing.
way!
Yeah, I'm
Dude.
supposed to have closing this I think this Friday. So and then I'm done with Rochester fully. I don't
Yeah,
know.
actually,
You're right. Like you're so right about commercial. I feel like commercial, you just deal with better people, people that are entrepreneurs or people that are trying to succeed kind of like you are, so that you understand each other better. But like, I mean, there's different types of properties too, but the ones that I had in Rochester, they were like the lower rated ones. So you're just dealing with people that really don't care about you or themselves. They really don't even care about themselves. So how
yeah.
are they going to care about your property? They just destroyed the whole thing, and you're just going in trying to fix it after them. And it don't make sense.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense
Well,
to me. So
well, the biggest thing about it is it's a few months ago, I look back myself and I'm like, I felt like I have no value. I didn't have any value for myself. My management company is chasing a guy for $500, where I'm like, dude, I go into the apartment. The apartment is nasty, all messed up,
yeah,
and I'm like, dude, I'm doing this for $500. I'm like, screw that. So to me, I started selling things off. It was just wasn't worth my time.
Yeah.
They didn't value my time, and I felt like I was undervaluing my time and spending the energy, spending the worries on these people that clearly don't care, like you said, don't care about you as a landlord, and they don't care what you do for them. You can go and put brand new countertops, kitchen, remodel the whole thing, and 2 days later you go in.
the
2 days later, you go in and that thing is trash. And they
destroyed. Yeah,
and they have 99.9%. How can I say? They're always right. You're always wrong.
yeah,
They have the law is on their side. You have that like 0.0001% of the law on your side,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
that's only
So
based on because you can evict them, file through a lawyer eviction. So to me, why I sold things off, I was like, dude, I don't got time to mess around with these things, even worrying about that person. I mean, it
I
wasn't right.
100% agree with you, Paul, because I used to run a restaurant. And what I realized is like, I don't want to do, after owning a restaurant, I don't want to own anything that's B2C, business to consumer. All I want to do is business to business deals. Because, first of all, if you're working with businesses, if they're typically, let's say, commercial property, it's an investment for them. Like they're not going to lowball you. The law is also,
Yeah.
more like it's fair, it's equal. And what I learned is like when you own a restaurant, I was fighting for a new client every day that would leave me a couple dollars because that's the profit margins were like 5 to 10%. They leave me a couple dollars, and it's like, well, they're not going to come back tomorrow. They just ate at my restaurant today. They're not going to come back tomorrow
Yeah.
most likely. And it's like, well, so every day I got to fight for new customers. Where it's like I just go business to business. It's like you have a few good clients per month, and you're making the same amount of compared to like fighting for
Exactly.
1,000 people leaving a couple dollars a month. So 100% agree with you, and that's. I saw a tweet last week, and it was like, friends don't let other friends do B2C, business to consumer. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know,
Well,
Paul.
that's the
Maybe if your
thing.
food was really, really good, people would come back.
it was
I
really good,
keep
but it was
Chick-fil-A.
burgers. It
I
was
keep coming
greasy
back to
burgers.
Chick-fil-A.
I don't know.
But
I don't
yeah,
know. It was. I don't. If anyone's here listening to this, considering opening of a restaurant, just don't. I mean, it's like you got to be completely invested into it. You got to put your life and soul in
yeah,
it, and you're going to be dealing with issues all day long. So,
Well,
yeah,
and same thing. If anyone's there gonna be listening to this podcast, honestly, Rochester is probably one of the best cities to invest in real estate. So with that said, Bob, I know you're gonna disagree, but truly, if you are in Rochester and you want to start somewhere and you have 50 grand or 10% of that to go to the bank,
yeah,
Rochester is the best to start with. Listen, I started with houses I bought for 15, 20 grand, and those
yeah,
houses are worth like 120 grand now. So in
yeah,
the end, yeah, I had some tenants that didn't pay in those houses. It's still worth it. So meaning is, even right now, if you buy houses, single houses, doubles, triples, or you name it, you will still get your best return in Rochester. Even the taxes, even the law. The
yeah.
biggest thing about it, I'll tell everybody, whoever's gonna be listening to this, is you just have to babysit it. You got to go to the
Yeah.
property every other day, babysit
True.
it. Biggest thing is watch your tenant, who you get in. watch the tenant. When they come in, you watch the tenant. If they're messy, sometimes they come in the office, you can't even see they're messy. But meaning is, try to do as much background as you can. Go on Facebook, do as much background as you can on them. If there's some party animals, if they have a job, or they're just, or they're paid by a government assistance, great. But make sure that, just get as much information about that person. So meaning is, when you have them, when you have tenants in Rochester, you have properties in Rochester that singles or doubles in the Rochester City, Rochester, to my knowledge, you just can't have a lot. So if I was a person starting out trying to have 5, 10, 15, maybe 20, I would have no problem at all. Is the biggest thing is at the size where I am now, it's not worth. I'll rather get a paycheck from once a month from a company that's paying me 50 grand, and they pay no problem at all in a warehouse. Yeah, there's much more risk. And people are like, oh, sweet, I'm getting in the warehouse. Well, industrial is way much more risk. Yes, because if you buy a empty, vacant, it can sit there for months or years until you find the right tenant, right?
Yeah.
So your expense will come on really quick. Meaning is, I wouldn't recommend for somebody starting out in the real estate, go and get yourself a property, an industrial property. I wouldn't recommend them doing that. But that's up until this point, we're going from single houses to doubles, triplets, 5 units, multifamily complexes, and having offices and retail, and now in industrial. That's why I did it. So you're still going to get your best return on properties, single homes, doubles in Rochester, 100%. I totally support that. But like I said, you just can't have.
You just have to babysit it, and you have to be in it all the time. And you're right about being cheap, because in North Carolina you cannot go buy a house right now for 40 grand. In Rochester you could still find a house in the city
Really?
for 40 grand.
Yeah. Especially if you're hands-on.
Yeah. You can literally go buy a house right now in Rochester for 40 grand, Paul.
Why is it so cheap?
Be like 3.
Yeah, especially if you're a hands-on person.
Man.
Yeah, Rochester,
you can do the work yourself.
Yeah.
Dude,
is Rochester I don't know, is it like ghetto or something? Like why is it so cheap? I thought Rochester was like a nice area.
Well, it's the #1 rated city. No, I'm just kidding. But it's probably somewhere rated there.
No, they are. It's like on top of the list somewhere there. 1 or 2.
It's a nice city. I love Rochester. I really do love Rochester. If I ever had to come back, I would come back. But the areas where the houses are, like where I had mine, it was definitely more of like the ghetto areas for sure.
Okay.
So that's why you're kind of buying it for cheaper.
So how much you rent it out for?
It's good.
Single houses, you can probably rent it out for, I rent out my single houses for about $1,300 a month, give or take, one area in city of Rochester. So if you buy a house for 50 grand, 60 grand, and $1,300 a month, your taxes
that's really good.
Are actually very cheap.
It is really good.
It's really good. But like I said, it's all based on the tenants. It's like same concept.
100%.
You can have a trucking company. You can have 20 trucks, but if you have 5 bad drivers that annoy you, do damages, never on time. Same concept. But in the trucking industry, I realized that if you have the right team, the recruiter, he takes the driver in, watches his safety. Mainly, you call the company back when he worked for. It is the same process as in the real estate as getting a tenant, but it's just in the trucking industry is a little bit. I feel more safer here.
For sure.
Yeah, no, that's 100% true, because even in Rochester, you can get a great tenant that literally will go in and live there for their whole life. Like they will literally live there for 10 years and you will never have an issue, and they'll be great tenants, But then you have, I don't want to say most of the people, but you have like a 50-50 chance where you will get a really bad one that will destroy your house. You'll come in there and it will be full of cockroaches or who knows what. It gets bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So check out this. I'll add this on and I'll say something about the warehouse. So check this out. I bought a house for 30 grand, actually $30,400 2.5 years ago. I remodeled it, put in about 5 grand into it, put a tenant in, $1,300 a month, right? The tenant didn't pay for 6 months until it was time to evict them. So first month they didn't pay, filed eviction, we evicted him, right? So eviction came on, we come to the house to evict him. It's not him living there, it's his buddy. So you're like, dude, what do you mean? It's your evicted. So they call the officers and says, "Hey, you got to evict this guy now." It's
Yeah.
the guy doesn't live there anymore, and on the eviction is this guy now. So now he's counts as squatter, right? So you can actually go right now to the house. You evict the squatter, right? You go to evict the squatter. Now the squatter let his brother live in there, somebody else. At the time of eviction, if he's not on the eviction list, technically he's evicted, but his brother is not.
Wow.
He can live, and it's just a circling thing. So I was just like, dude, screw with this. I'm gonna sell my houses. I'm gonna, I'll keep the complexes, which I have, the bigger units.
Yeah.
Actually, believe it or not, I just sold a complex on Thursday. Thursday was a really good day. I got conditional off. No, first started off with 2 people locked out. So I was just saying about the house, $30,400. I bought the house for 2.5 years ago. I just evicted, locked out the tenant that was there for 2 years that owed me $25,000.
Wow.
Didn't pay a single payment, based on his deposit and the first month's rent. So meaning is Thursday I got to lock out 2 people, sold what's called a complex to a NBA basketball player.
Oh wow.
And at 4 p.m. I got a letter in my email about a conditional that your conditional has vacated. So Thursday was a good day for me.
So we'll forgive you. Was that the day you didn't come on the podcast? We'll forgive you, man.
Yeah.
That was it a day or no? Was it Thursday?
I think it was Thursday. Yeah, I think it was Thursday.
Yeah, there you go. That was the day. So sorry, guys.
So it makes sense. It makes sense.
It started with a tough day, locking other people, but came out with a big smile, and honestly, prayed to God, thanked them for this amazing day, because a lot of good things happened that day. So it was truly awesome.
So Paul, we got to wrap around here. So what do you see for the future for yourself, for the trucking company, for your real estate, or what's your future plans, your future goals? What does that look like?
Future plans, we plan to grow about 10%.
I was going to say, because back then you didn't have a number in mind for the trucking. Do you have like a number in mind where you want to be with trucks in like 5-10 years, thousands, 3,000, 4,000, or just keep it in?
I don't know. I don't want to jinx myself or say anything. I really don't know what's ahead, but I mean, we plan to grow yearly about 10 to 15%, give or take. We'll see how it is. Obviously, you want to make sure it's worth it, and on the accounting part, but obviously want to be smart and purchasing. Like last month we added 35 trucks, and we were still unconditional. So sometimes I look at it, I'm like, man, I hope this is the right thing, but it is what it is. People have work. Even with the conditional, we still had trips, and maybe the money wasn't made per mile the best as you think it would be, but we're still in it. We, like I said, 10 to 15% growth each year, give or take, and just hopefully the market will go up. And I don't know when that's going to happen, but hopefully it's going to be soon.
How soon do you think it's going to happen? Do you think this year or next year? What's your projection? Next year?
I think my projection is first quarter of the year, first or second quarter of the year.
I've heard like mixed stuff. People were saying like third quarter this year, fourth quarter, that it's gonna be a huge boom, but I don't think so. I don't know.
Based on my knowledge of things, companies now, like big stores or distributors, they order things. They order supplies or things for their companies. Put on shelf months ahead of time. So like, back in the day when I was starting, it would be like November, October, November, December was a crazy busy time because everything's going for all the holidays, Christmas, New Year's. Now you everything's getting done like August, September, October. So like, I think I don't know. I don't know. It's like, me saying what's the stock's going to do. Like we don't know, but based on the knowledge what I have, I think it'll go up just because it's summer. I think things will start going up a little bit, but I think next year I think more companies will have to die down, and hopefully it's not after anyone that we know, but in the end of the day, I think a lot of companies are gonna have to hold in tight and watch their expenses and wait for the time to come on, because there's still people buying trucks, and it sucks for the people that paid $250,000-$300,000 per truck when it was really busy. I
Yeah.
feel bad for the people, because it was crazy, and it was, the prices were absolutely insane. But people should have thought it's not gonna be there all the time.
Oh,
Right. You kind of feel bad for those people, but then you kind of like, would you expect? Like if you're listening to some of these uh people on social media, or like selling these courses, or like, oh, you'll make this much money in truck. And back then you could have made a lot of money in trucking, but it was such a short-lived period of time where it's like, dude, you have to pay this payment, like $250,000 truck, you have to pay this for the next 7 years or whatever. So it's not like
Yeah.
a heartbeat.
Exactly,
But yeah.
exactly. So that's why, I mean, now a lot of people are, selling off the trucks, selling off their, because they paid for trucks or trailers. Obviously it's a normal thing when you spend a lot of money. I mean, but even when in the busy time, we needed trucks too, because just based on everything, I bought like
Yeah.
fairly used trucks. And I did pay $150,000 for them, and they had a little bit of miles, couple hundred, 100 to 200,000 miles. So
Yeah.
if you look at me, like, if you told me this about a year and a half ago, I'm like, are you crazy paying that much money for that truck? But I mean, some people paid $180,000 for those kind of trucks, and some people paid
Yeah.
$250,000-$300,000 for brand new trucks. That's 100 grand over. You know what? It sucks. It's for those dealerships that they were unfaithful to the customers, where they, I mean, use the term rape them of money, charging them,
Yeah.
X amount of dollars for truck at that time. Actually, that's actually pretty messed up.
Yeah. No, that was happening like left and right, where they would just upcharge you for no reason, and they were saying,
Yeah.
uh,
But they could
warehouse.
have. I mean, I guess you got to look at it. They had opportunity. It's like same thing with us, Bob. When we had loads going, when they were paying for loads, and you knew you can charge a broker, a customer a little, more. I mean, I guess you could say the
And that's,
same thing. So
yeah, and that's what the brokers are doing right now. They're like, well, if we can move it for cheaper, why are we gonna pay you $2 a mile? We'll move it for
exactly,
$1.20.
I don't blame them.
And
I
somebody's still
yeah.
really
gonna
don't blame
move it.
them.
Yep.
It's
It's a
supply and
cycle.
demand, I guess.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Indeed. Awesome. Paul, it was great talking to you. We had a great
Pleasure as
time.
always.
If anyone wants
Yeah,
to follow
nice to meet
you
you.
on social media, Paul, what's the best place to follow you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. It's Pashka the Boss. So I
Awesome.
go by my nickname. I was called in the childhood, so I just kind of named it Pashka the Boss. They call me,
I like it.
yeah. So go by
Awesome.
that.
We'll get that tagged in the video and on the podcast. Good stuff.
Appreciate it.
Well, yeah, thanks for coming on. This was great. We could have talked a lot more, but I feel like we all have, jobs to do and work to do. So yeah, this was great. Thanks for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me
And
as
if
well. So
Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Freight Caviar podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, or if you didn't, leave a review. Let me know what you think. I appreciate any feedback. If you'd like to have more Freight Caviar content, go to freightcaviar.com and subscribe to my email newsletter.